Okay, fine, great. So I hope you all were able to install Power BI. Uh, what we are going to do now is we are going to go through some of the basics of Power BI, what we mean by a couple of uh, concepts like measures and constructed columns. We'll talk briefly about that. We'll see how we can actually connect data to each other. And then we'll do some kind of visualizations. So that is we're aiming in this session. Uh, so let us start with our presentation first, and then we'll move forward. Okay, so essentially in this class, we are going to talk about what is Power BI. Then we'll go for detailed overview of Power BI. Then we'll talk about Azure. We have already briefly talked about it, but maybe tomorrow we'll talk about what exactly we mean by Microsoft Azure, how to connect Azure to Power BI, and then if time permits, then we can actually use HD Spark and SQL implementation and do different visualizations. So first thing first, let us see what is Power BI. Now, Power BI is used to connect and visualize any data using the one unified scalable platform for self-service as well as enterprise business intelligence, which is easy to use and which helps users to gain deeper data insight. And that is what we mean by Power BI. Now, there are two components. Uh, First component is to connect the data. You are connecting data, and once the data is connected, we are going to visualize it. Now, we have mentioned two different things over here. The first thing what we discussed or we just mentioned right now is unified platform and scalable platform. The good thing about any Power BI as well as Microsoft Azure service is that it can be used with any of the data set, any of the connection type, and any device. So it's a unified solution for all your needs. And it is a scalable platform, which means you can keep on adding multiple things to this platform. Okay, and we can use this for our own purpose. If you're just enthusiast, you can use it for your own, or you can use it for enterprise as well. And that's why they have two different editions. One is for uh, personal usage, we call it as desktop or the desktop, which we have just installed. And that once you have created something on your desktop, and if you want to collaborate with your teams, if you want to use it for your organization, and if you want to publish the data, publish your visualization, they can then you can actually use the same platform for your enterprise needs as well. The main aim of Power BI is to get or gain deeper data insight. You already have a data, you are going to deep dive into data and see exactly what the data tells about. So just to put it simply, just to put it in a simple word, it is a tool used for visualization of the data and to make business decisions based on insights gained from the visuals. So one of the things uh, what we discussed earlier in the first class is that we do data visualization to analyze, explore, and to validate our data hypothesis or to validate our models. And all that can be done in Power BI. So we can create the business visualizations, and then based on those visualizations, we can do business decisions. And that's why there is a word they use is as BI, which is business intelligence. Okay, so let us go to the next slide. Now, Power BI gives the ability to analyze and explore data, and we can do that on premise as well as in the cloud. If you don't have access to any infrastructure in your organization, then what you can do is you can actually use their cloud services. If you want to do something on premise in your organization, you can do that as well. Now, Power BI provides you the ability to collaborate and share your work with individuals and make reports quite interactive so that your colleagues and your colleagues from different organizations can easily access it and play with it, interact with it very securely. So we have Power BI tool. You use that tool for personal use, create something, share with your colleagues, share across different organizations, take a collaborative decision, take a collaborative approach for making some kind of hypothesis, making sure that those hypotheses are validated, and then go ahead with those technologies. So that is the beauty of Power BI. Before going into how exactly Power BI works, let us now see what are different parts of Power BI or what are different components of Power BI. Now, this is a picture of Power BI ecosystem, and we can see that on this page, we can see there are different components of Power BI. We can see Power BI desktop, we can see Power BI service, and we can see Power BI mobile app over here. So let us see what are different key components of this Power BI ecosystem. The first one is Power BI desktop. It is a Windows-based desktop application which is used for PCs and desktop, and they are primarily used for designing and publishing the reports by individuals. So it is a Windows-based platform or application used by individuals to design and publish reports. Now, in addition to Power BI desktop, we have Power BI service. Now, what is Power BI service? Power BI service is the SaaS, software as a service platform. It's a software as a service platform, which is online service. Earlier, it was known as Power BI for Office 365, but now it is just referred as PowerBI.com or simply Power BI. And that software as a service essentially consists of three main components. The first component is app development workspace. So you can create different dashboards, you can create reports, you can create workbooks, data sets, and from these, you can actually create a workspace for developing certain apps. And once the app is developed, once you publish the app, then you can use that app to create certain alerts to make sure that you are getting proper subscriptions, or perhaps you can actually just making sure that you are giving access to your software to particular people, or perhaps printing and exporting your reports. All those things can be done in app module. So you can have app workspace where you develop your app. Once the app is developed, You can publish that app, and then you can use it for different applications. In addition to that, we also have a gateway data source setting. Now, if I go back to gateway data source setting, over here, I have on-premise data gateway. And it is a gateway which connects to different data sources. And I'll talk about it very soon in next minute. So let us start looking at this component. We have app sources, data sources, and those data sources are connected to the on-premise data gateway. We call it as Power BI gateway. Those gateways are used to sync external data in and out of Power BI. Just give me a moment. Somebody wants to join. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So these gateways are used to sync the external data in and out of Power BI system. And they are also used for automatic or scheduled refreshes. Uh, if you are actually using it in primary mode or as a desktop mode, you can just connect that to Azure Technologies, and then Azure will do that for you, and Azure will inject the data to your Power BI service. If you are using it for enterprise, you can also use one of their other apps called Power Apps in Office 365 for accessing data and sending the data in and out of Power BI system. Now, we also have one Power BI reports server. It is a on-site, on-premise Power BI reporting solution for the companies which won't or which cannot store data in the cloud-based Power BI service. Say, for example, I gave one example of Pentagon. Now, Pentagon cannot store their data in cloud. For them, they have on-premise Power BI reporting solution, which works in offline mode. So, of course, I mean, we are not going to that. What we are going to do today is to look into this component. Now, this component comprises of making different queries. Those queries are generated from the source data. So we have a source data. Source data is fed into the queries. We run certain queries, and then we build our data set. And from that data set, we create report. So that is what we'll be doing in today's class. Getting the data, running some queries, making our database ready for making reports. Now, let us look at some of the advantages of Power BI. We have already talked about it, but let us just reiterate so that you can remember. The advantages of Power BI is that it provides a cloud-based as well as desktop interface. We are going to use in today's class desktop interface, and tomorrow we are going to use Microsoft's other cloud service to connect the data with our desktop application. It provides capabilities for data warehousing, data discovery, and making interactive dashboards. We are more interested in making interactive dashboards today. Then one of the good thing about Power BI is its ability to load custom visualizations, which means we need not have to rely on the visualizations provided by Microsoft. We can go to some third-party vendors, we can purchase visualizations, or perhaps we can make our own visualizations and use those visualizations for our needs. And the other thing, and the last thing, is it is scalable across the entire organization. The entire organization can use it without any further need of infrastructure or any additional software. Okay, so let us see how to get the Power BI desktop. I have already mentioned that in the morning class. We can go to powerbi.microsoft.com, or we can now go to, they have actually one more website called powerbi.com. Just go to that website and download it and get it installed on your Windows machine. Now, unfortunately, Windows machine is the only machine where you can install Power BI Desktop. If at all you are using Mac or Linux, I would recommend to go for a Windows virtual machine, and then you can run Power BI Desktop into that virtual machine. Okay, so let me know if you have any difficulty installing Power BI. Uh, how many of you could not uh, install Power BI Desktop? Were there any issues installing Power BI Desktop?
No, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for knowing. Okay, so if at all you have any issues, just let me know. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Muniz and Monami as well. Okay, so now let us go and see some of the components of Power BI Desktop. What are different components and how to get the data, how to do some kind of processing, and how exactly the visualization looks like. Okay, so in Power BI, we first get the data, then we visualize the data, sorry, analyze the data, and we visualize it. We are not going to use publish and collaborate uh, components, because those are enterprise components and I don't want you to pay any money for that, or I don't want to put you in any other trouble. Just let us focus on some basics. So we'll try to see how to get a data, analyze the data, and visualize the data. So let us go to get data. So the Power BI is designed in such a way that we can create many data sets of our choice and then connect that data sets or connect that data sets to our Power BI. Now, as of now, you can connect to 100 plus data sources, both on premise and on cloud. Once you have your database, you can actually do the transformation and cleaning of the data, and perhaps actually you can look at the shape and everything for your data analysis on the go. So on the fly, you can actually do the transformation for your data analysis. Now, you can have a live connectivity to the on-premise as well as cloud data sources. If you have cloud data sources, you can set a refresh rate, and it will get refreshed on regular basis. And the good thing about get data is you can extend your data sources with custom connectors to any data source. So as of now, I don't know any database or any data set which cannot be connected to Microsoft Power BI. If at all you have a data set which you cannot connect to Power BI, what you have to do is just write an email to their customer service, and they'll make sure, or like they'll design uh, something so that you can connect your data to Power BI. And just to give example, I guess I have written the next slide. Here are different data sources which you can connect to. Think of any data source and then you have it on Power BI. We have Excel, CSV, XML, which is very common. And then we have Sybase database. Then we have MySQL database, Facebook, Stripe, GitHub, Microsoft Azure Document DB, Spark. So you can think of, and all those data sources are available. And As I mentioned, they are continuously adding those data sources to Microsoft Power BI. But if you don't have any database which you can work with, you can request Microsoft to add missing data sources. And you can also use their APIs to get data from unsupported sources. So once you connect to your database, once you get your data, then you can do data transformation and cleaning. So some of the common data shaping tasks, what you can do is to remove rows, remove tables, or rename tables and columns, change the data type, delete relationships, or perhaps establish relationships. You can use a pivot column and group rows features, modify table name, identify fixed errors, and many other things. So you can do data reshaping, you can do data cleaning, you can do data transformation with the inbuilt Power Queries. So just to summarize, you can do data transformation using built-in Power Query, do data shaping, do data cleaning, and then use their tools to modify the data as required. Now, once you get the data, once you transform the data, the next thing what we generally do is to do data analysis or analyze the data. Now, Microsoft Power BI has some of the features where we can automatically create models and connect them together. So if you have two different data sources, we can just connect them together and make some kind of models. Give me 1 more minute. Now, we can actually uh, do much more complicated operations as well, because Microsoft uses a very pack engine for in-memory uh, operations, and therefore it doesn't get heavy, and you can actually just connect to many data sources and then analyze the data sources on the fly. One of the good thing about uh, Power BI is we can create some kind of quick measures and columns. So if you want to add a column, or if you want to make some numerical transformations onto your column, you can do that on the go. And then you can also create some kind of DAX. DAX stands for data analysis expressions. So those are the formulas which you create in a language called M. Like C language, we have M language. And that M language is used to create some DAX formulas. Those formulas are very similar to the Excel formula. In a Microsoft Excel, you use some formulas. So those formulas are very much similar to DAX formulas or data analytics expressions formulas, but those are similar, not exactly equal. Now, once you analyze the data, you can also think of creating your own models. So you want to divide the data as a fact or data table. So that you can do in Power BI. Then you can actually connect different tables using some kind of schema. If you want, you can go for star schema or click schema, or perhaps actually you can just go for a linear schema. So you can actually do that kind of modeling in Power BI. One of the other things what you can do, and I'm just going to just go a little bit in deeper, is that you can create custom columns. And those custom columns can be created by two ways. The first way to create custom columns is by creating some kind of measures. Otherwise, you can create some calculated columns. Now, there is a slight difference between measures and calculated columns. The major difference between measures and calculated columns is that measures are calculated on the fly, and only the formula is stored in the memory. Whereas calculated columns are stored in the model, the data model which you create, Those are stored in that model, and both formula and data resulting from the formula are stored in the model. So that is the basic difference between measures and calculated columns. In today's class, after some time, what we are going to do is we are going to actually create some kind of measures and see how easy it is to create measures, and then we'll use those measures for our application. In addition to that, what we can do is we can also do some kind of data analytics and expressions. Okay, or in short, we call it as DAX. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it is a kind of code written in M language to perform operations in the tabular model, and the DAX model is also used for creating some kind of calculated columns as well. So, as I mentioned earlier, DAX is very similar to expressions used in Excel to perform calculations. DAX, along with VeriPack engine, the custom built VeriPack engine, which Microsoft uses, enables the faster retrieval of data. And just one thing which I have noted here is DAX is simple but not easy. Many a times we think that, oh, DAX is very easy, we can actually just do it on the go. Yes, you can do it, but you do require some kind of practice to make sure that we are getting or using proper DAX commands. So some of the most used DAX functions are calculate, then all except filter, then we can use date, end of month, end of year, start of week. Then we can do some kind of statistics as well. So we can do summation, we can find minimal value, maximum value, we can find average value. Then we can also use some kind of related and relatable values as well. So these are the things which we can do using DAX. And those are easy to do, but it requires some practice. So we know how to get data, how to analyze the data. Now next, let us see how to visualize the data. Let us see how to visualize the data. So in visualize the data, there are almost 200 plus visuals with easy to use drag and drop interfaces. So we have some interfaces, we can just use them to drag and drop, and then actually use those interfaces, use those widgets to create our visual. We can actually explore our data across multiple visualizations. For example, you can use the same data for finding, you can use the same data to create a tree map, or perhaps a waffle chart, or perhaps you can use it as a scatter plot, and then see how each data is represented with different visuals. Now, all these visuals are interconnected. They are interconnected to each other. And this feature is very much useful when we are slicing and dicing the data. So say, for example, yesterday we saw iris dataset. In iris dataset, we did some slicing and dicing. We did use some selection commands, for example, ilog, log, or filtering or group by method. We can do those things very easily in Power BI. What we can do is we can actually have 2 or 3 different visualizations, and then we can just click on one of the components of one visualization, and then the same is actually shown in other visuals as well. And we'll see that thing in one of the visualizations which we'll be making in the afternoon. Now, the other thing is we can create our own custom visuals, and we can actually connect Python and R libraries to Power BI. And it's very easy to connect Python and R libraries. and I'll actually show you how to use that. And you can also visualize better with bookmarks and custom navigation and drill throughs. And we'll see that as well in the afternoon. Now, here are different visuals and their uses. So there are different visuals for doing comparison, looking at change over time, ranking. The good thing about Power BI is they have a special section for creating some kind of geospatial maps or showing the data on a special location. We can see flows. We can actually do part to whole. We can see distribution, correlation. We can have some singles, filters, narratives, and then we have some miscellaneous. So these are all different visuals which we will be using or we do have access to in Power BI. In addition to that, as I mentioned, if you want to get more visuals, you can go to their marketplace and get it from there, or perhaps you can actually create your own and connect them. Okay, so let us actually see how we can actually do different visuals. For that, I'm just going to skip this slide and I'm going to go to the next slide where we are actually going to look at how it looks like in Power BI. So what we do in Power BI is we make use of different panes, be any pane. We make use of different pane. For example, here we're looking at visualization pane. And in the visualization pane, can you see my screen? Something happened now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Okay. Just let me just see. Okay, fine. I'll just continue for some time. If you can't see my screen, let me know, and then I'll just try to avoid it. Fine. So we use visualization pane in Power BI to see different default visuals which are pre-installed. We can use also built-in Python visuals as well, and those are all shown over here. In addition to this visualization pane, we also have some kind of other values over here as well. For example, if you want to actually look for some of the values, you can actually just look at different values and then you can actually keep on adding these values in data fields. In addition to that, we can also use one of the other panes where we can actually just do some kind of search, or maybe we can look for some of the information from the visualization pane. And I'll show you that when we'll do the practical after some time. And then, as I mentioned earlier, if you don't find any custom visual, if you don't have access to custom visual, what you can do is you can just go to marketplace and look for your own custom visuals. Okay, so let us open Power BI and start exploring Power BI. But unfortunately, I have a problem with my power the power, actually the power coming from electricity board. So just give me 2 minutes. I'll just fix that and then we'll start with our Power BI modules. So just 5 minutes, no more than 5 minutes. Okay.